Hey there, Benjamin Harvey here, and today what I wanted to do is help you out a little bit with understanding and utilizing the concept of leverage. Now what we know is that if you're watching this video, it's probably because you want to make a difference in the world in some way, shape or form. Maybe you're thinking about one day starting a business where you help other people improve the quality of their lives and solve problems and create meaningful experiences of life. And maybe you're wondering, how is it that I'm going to attract clients to actually serve to begin with? And let's face it, without clients, it's very difficult to have a successful business. Now, one of the things that I worked out along the way, and I've been doing this now for over 11 years, is that if you're able to leverage your time effectively, that often has a big impact on your ability to be successful. And one of the most effective ways to leverage your time is to get out there and do the number one thing that most people are unwilling to do. In fact, it's been said that successful people are the ones that do the things that non-successful people are unwilling to do. And one of the things that people are most unwilling to do is public speaking. However, public speaking is probably one of the most leveraged activities a human being can do. I mean, if you think about it, even the biggest companies in the world, like the Googles and the Apples of the world, still use a platform for them to get up and present their latest products or services to the world. And I'm sure you've, somewhere in your life, you've probably seen an image of Steve Jobs walking along a stage, holding up an iPhone, talking about it. And that's because of the amount of leverage they're able to get from that activity. Now, if you're able to overcome your fears and work through the confidence issues that are required and the courage that is required to get out there onto a platform and share your message, then you have unlocked an incredible opportunity to make a huge difference in the world and do it in the most leveraged way. Now, in order for us to get up on a platform, we first have to overcome a whole bunch of mindset challenges. And I certainly understand what these mindset challenges are like. In fact, I am an introvert by trade. And I grew up my whole life with a whole bunch of social anxieties and really was quite socially awkward, to be honest. But I was able to actually train myself and teach myself the skills and techniques that were required to, first of all, overcome my fears. Second of all, really just unlock my courage and my confidence as a presenter. And third of all, be able to actually share a message in a way that people understood it. And more importantly, they actually took action on it. Now, if you are going to get on a platform, one of the things to keep in mind is that having a good structure to your presentation is going to benefit the audience remarkably. In fact, your audience is going to respond to talks that not only provide a lot of content, but have a very unique structure that allows them to embody the information while going on quite a journey with you as the presenter. Now, you may or may not be aware that Keynote Presentations, or presenting from a stage, or talking about in any way, shape or form, actually does have a specific model that it follows. Now, every talk you ever watch in the world is comprised of only 14 pillars. There's only 14 things that actually make a talk up. Any type of talk, whether that's a TED talk, a keynote talk, a network talk, a 30-second chat, a 5-minute talk, a 90-minute what they call speak to sell or present to promote kind of a thing, or a one-day workshop, they all only have 14 things in them that make them actually zing. Now, a presentation generally goes through 3 distinct phases. The first phase is the connection, where you actually connect with the audience members. If you don't get the connection right, then you will have a disconnection that occurs in the audience and they won't listen to anything else you have to say. Now, there's nothing worse than having a beautiful message in your heart that you want to share with the world, but no one's connected to that message. In fact, really, a lot of people do have a beautiful message, but if you can think about it, a lot of people get stuck because their skills let them down and therefore their message doesn't cut through. So the connection is the first stage. Once you've made a connection with the audience, the second stage is to actually deliver the content. Whatever it is you want to teach or share in any way, shape or form, you deliver it in the content stage. And the third stage is actually what we call a call to action, where you offer the audience some type of action that they can do either inside the room or the following weeks after the presentation that allows them to progress with the information that you have in fact been sharing with them. So if we have a look at those key phases, which is basically the connection, the content and the call to action, each one of them is comprised of one of these 14 pillars. So the first stage is actually made up of 6 of the 14 pillars. So 6 of the things you ever do in a presentation happen during your connection phase. And when you're actually joining and connecting with an audience, the first thing you want to keep in mind is your introduction. What do you actually say at the beginning of your talk to actually get people on board and get people started? It's been said that a presentation is kind of like an aeroplane, and excuse the example, but aeroplanes have the highest chance of crashing at takeoff and landing. And your talk is the same. It has the highest chance of crashing at the takeoff and the landing. So getting the first 5 to 15 minutes of your presentation right really is quite critical. So when you kick off, the first thing you want to do is an introduction. And there's over 11 different ways to introduce yourself on a platform, all of which we're going to be sharing in a program we have coming up. But I want to actually jump to a piece that's going to be quite relevant for you right now. So the first one is the actual introduction. Second, from there, you want to do what we call 3 core problems, as in the 3 biggest problems that people face. The third thing is what we call market forces. The fourth thing is what we call a big promise or a big idea. The fifth thing is what we call frames, as in the way you want the audience to think and behave during your presentation. And the sixth thing is actually what we call your why. And today I wanted to talk to you about exactly how to share your why. You see, what we do know is there's a saying, I think it's by Dale Carnegie, that says, people don't care how much you know. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And imagine that, I'm trying to tell you this saying, I can't remember it. But yeah, basically it's that. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And people don't know how much you care when you're on a platform until you've actually shared your why, the core reason why you are driven to share this message in this room at this moment in time. And most amateur speakers, for some reason, are unwilling to get vulnerable, are unwilling to open up their heart and let people look into their soul and really understand what drives them to go out there and share their message. So I want to give you the structure right now of exactly how to share your why. So next time you get in front of a room full of people, either now or sometime in the future, you'll know exactly what to say and the order in which to say it. See, when it comes to storytelling, there is an archetypical framework that allows a story to really come to life and really bounce inside the audience and get them to feel a sense of connection with the speaker, but also go on a bit of a journey. Now, just before I get into it, I want to let you know one thing. The secret to good storytelling is not to remember, but to relive. So don't try and make stories up, because that's just insanity. You're going to get caught out at some point. The trick is to think of the stories in your life, step back inside them, and then relive them as they happened, step by step. Now, if you were to relive a story as it happens, it actually goes through 8 core phases, and you might want to write these down somewhere. The first thing that happens inside a story is you're aware of the scene. So the step 1 of actually creating a story that an audience can go along, where you share why you do what you do, is to set the scene in which you were in at the point at which you made a decision to go out there and make a difference in people's lives. So setting the scene is where you describe the external appearance. Are you indoors, outdoors, on a train, on a bus? Is it summer? Is it winter? What's actually happening in the scene? Where are you and what is actually going on? Once you've set the scene, you want to introduce the characters. Was it just you in this scene? Was it other people? And you want to describe the external appearance of the characters. What are they wearing? What's their hair color like? Do they actually have hair? I don't have any hair, so if you describe me, you'd say the guy was bald. But basically, describe the characters. Do they have accents? Can you do the accents? But once you've introduced the characters, you can move on to the third stage of storytelling, which is to describe the emotional state of the actors. I mean, you think about it. When you go and meet a friend for coffee, for example, the first thing you're aware of is the cafe. The second thing you see is your friend. And the third thing you might become aware of is that they're upset. So this is actually what happens in real life. If you tell stories the way they actually happen, then people will experience them and be connected with them. But remember, relive them, don't remember them. Now, once you've actually explained the emotional state of the characters, so what are they feeling inside themselves, then once that is done, what you want to explain is why are they feeling that way? So what is the process that led them to feeling this specific type of emotion? Now, people inside stories connect with emotions at a very, very deep level. And this is because when we actually hear emotions within a story that are specifically linked to a character, our brain fires off a chemical known as oxytocin. And oxytocin is a bonding chemical that allows us to bond with other human beings. And it's essential for a range of different connections that we have, but it also allows us to have a huge amount of empathy and connection for people because of that bond that takes place. Now, when you explain a story to me that you are a part of, and you bring to life the characters, and then you highlight the emotional experiences of those characters, then my brain fires off this chemical, and I immediately connect with you. Now, here's the interesting thing. If I bond with you and the characters in the story, then I bond with your content. And this is really important, because if you want people to learn from you and you want them to embody your information and act on it, they have to bond with the content. And the best way to get people to bond with the content is to link that content to characters in the story. You'll notice that some of the best presenters are really just excellent storytellers. And that's because we know that when you release oxytocin, you start bonding with anything that happens next. And if the next thing I do after I tell my story is give you a whole bunch of content, you will glue that content into your mind, and that content will be stored with you literally for life. And this is one of the most remarkable things about our mind. It's been said that it's not what we eat but what we digest that makes us healthy. It's not what we earn but what we save that makes us wealthy. And it's not what we learn but what we retain that actually makes us wise. And if you want your audience to retain, they've got to be firing oxytocin, and they do that when the characters are brought to life. So once you've set the scene, you've introduced the characters, you've explained the emotions, and you've explained the process in which they've actually come to feel those emotions, what you want to do right now is bring the whole thing to a climax. So you might bring the whole story now to its crisis point, the point at which things had a turning point or a directional shift, or some snapping that occurred as you as the individual telling the story, or people inside the story. The point at which you made the decision to step outside your comfort zone and start making a difference in people's lives. And this is where the whole story turns around. So when you bring that story to a crisis, a climax of some description, the next thing you want to do is bring in a resolution. You want to resolve the whole thing. Now, you might bring in a resolution in the form of maybe you spoke to somebody like a coach or a mentor that helped you get out of this situation in your life. Or maybe you read a book of some description. Or maybe you attended an event. Or maybe you saw something online or watched a video. But in the resolution stage, you want to explain whatever it is that helped you get on track and find what it is that you're looking for. In fact, many professional speakers would often refer to this as something known as seeding, where you put in an idea about something that helped create a big shift inside your mindset. Once you created a resolution inside the story where you have got yourself back on track, you've pulled yourself out of the ashes and you've really just gotten ready to go for it, what you do now is you explain all the outcomes that have occurred since then. You explain what's happened, what you've been able to achieve, the results that you've created as an outcome of having a resolution that has occurred. Once all of this has happened, all you've got to do now is share some type of message. Some type of piece of wisdom that sums the whole story up that you've just told in one or two very short sentences. You kind of want to imagine that you're walking down the path and you bump into someone and you can only tell them one sentence. That's it. Only one sentence you're allowed to say to them. What is the one sentence you would most love to say to them that summarizes the entire story that you've just told? Now, when you do this, set the scene, introduce the characters, explain the emotion, explain the process that caused the emotion, bring it to a crisis or a climax point, resolve it, go to the outcomes, and then share some type of message at the end of it. You've now got yourself an incredible framework to be able to stand in front of any room, bring the whole room to life, take them on a journey, literally stop time inside their minds, and allow them to have an incredible connection with you, which means when you get onto sharing your content, no matter what that content is, they will have bonded with you. And that really is the most critical part of presenting, having that connection. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the other 14 steps and find out more about presenting in general and how you can actually create a whole bunch of leverage, then my advice is enter your details on this page. We're running a complimentary event. It does have a value, but for you it's going to be free of charge. Now, this event is called Prosper From Your Passion. It's a one-day event where I go through not just this kind of content, but information around how to be an exquisite communicator, how to package up your highest service, how to find your message, how to discover what it is that you want to do and your gifts that you're going to give to the world, and really how do you turn your highest service into your highest income and make a meaningful impact in the world. So if you'd like to be a part of that, enter your details. The reason being is last time we ran this tour, we ran it in 8 separate locations, and all of the 8 locations actually sold out. So please enter your details as soon as possible. If you'd like to bring a friend along, then by all means, please register them as well. And at the event, please make sure you do come up and say hello to me, because I love to meet everybody that we share our ideas with. So prosper from your passion, enter your details as quick as you can. I hope you got value out of this video. If you enjoyed it, share it with people, forward it with people. If you know someone who presents, maybe this storytelling might help them out. And you can practice this with some of your friends. Like write down all the steps, practice a few times, and get a friend around and just tell them a story about your life. And just see what kind of connection you're able to form with them as a result of following this template. I hope you get some value out of it. I hope I can actually see you at Prosper From Your Passion. If you're able to make it to the event, it's going to be an incredible day of learning. And until we meet again, share your light, live your love, and do whatever it takes to be your own best friend. I'll see you soon.